All right, everybody, this will be warning to all politicians and running for president 2024, part 106. So it looks like there's been more violence in some cities down in Louisville and in Rochester, New York. And these aren't even, they might call them protests. They're, still working under that guise, but they're not even that. They're not, they haven't been that for a long time. They're not even like protests that have gotten out of control and turned into riots where people's emotions were running high and they failed to have better judgment and not to do the things they've done. These are just planned attacks. These are people just going places to do things, criminal things, on purpose. So you see some more people have been arrested, finally, thank God. Law enforcement is going after a lot of these people and rounding them up. So all you out there in the streets carrying water for these supposed causes here, and you got people, athletes, celebrities, and politicians rooting you on. Yeah, they got a t-shirt on. They're there with you, man. They're right there with you. Kaepernick, LeBron, all of them. They're down with your cause, man. They're flapping their gums on TV too. But have you stopped to think of why they're not out there in the streets with you doing the things you're doing? Just for a minute, just stop and think about it. One, because they know it's not right. And that's what you need to think about, is what things are wrong or right. They know it's not right. It's not right as a human being to be doing the things you're doing. And it's not the right way to express concerns about either racism or police brutality. And in many of the cases, those two things don't even factor into it, because you're going off a bunch of crap off of social media and a preconceived notion that police are just out there to hunt you down. So all the people flapping their gums and putting your t-shirt on, waving their banners, writing stuff all over the place, they're not out there because they know a lot of things you're doing are wrong. They're not going to come out there and ruin their lives and get arrested and go to prison. They're not going to be caught in this situation to where somebody might, even if you're not taking, steps to commit the crime yourself. If you're there with the people who are, if you're giving them support or anything like that, even if you're unaware that they're going to kill somebody, you're a co-conspirator. You're an accessory to that crime. And do you think Colin Kaepernick or LeBron or Oprah or any of the politicians, Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, do you think any of these people are going to get out there in the street with you and put themselves in legal jeopardy, ruin their lives, get sent to prison? They're playing you. Do you understand that? They are playing you for political reasons and to make themselves rich. George Carlin used to do a bit about the American dream, and George Carlin was a funny guy. There was a lot of funny stuff he did. But sometimes he was just a bit off the mark. But he used to do a bit about the American dream and how it's really a nightmare, because this country was founded by white men for white privileged men, and the landowners are the real people who run the country. And if they're God-given rights, why does anyone have to write them down and give them to you? etc., etc. You know, and coming from a guy who lived the American dream and made millions and millions and millions of dollars, in this country, it was just a bit ironic, don't you think? But it's the same situation. He was preaching to his audience, who was making him rich, telling them what they wanted to hear. When he himself was one of the rich white landowners. And that's kind of the situation I see right now. You got all these people who've made it one way or another in this country, shaking their fist at the system that made them who they are, and encouraging you to go out in the street and put yourself in jeopardy of being hurt or killed or getting arrested and going to prison. You know, George Carlin, you know, people paid to go and see him. He kind of had a captive audience. And I think the way things are going now with all the news media propaganda, they have and the social media, they have a captive audience, your mind. Because if you step back and look at everything that's going on in this country, it's all being driven by politics. It's not no civil rights movement. It's politics. It's people with political agendas playing you and using you to do their bidding while they stay nice and safe and wealthy. And if you go to jail, you get killed, it don't matter to them. It does not matter to them. It's bad enough that they don't care if people who are quote unquote their opposition, i.e. Trump supporters or small business owners, the quote unquote undesirables who shop at Walmart, get hurt or killed. You know, it's obvious they don't care about that. But what's not obvious to everybody is they don't care about you, the person out in the streets doing their bidding. They don't care if you get hurt or killed or you go to prison. If you ruin your whole entire life. That's what I don't think is obvious to you all out there in the street. I think if you stop and you take a serious look at all the cases and the grounds that, you know, you're basing all your violent actions and your chants on, you know, all your slogans, pretty much are unfounded. Because something happens and something's posted on social media or the jackass news media doesn't present the whole story. And next thing you know, you got people in the streets chanting about, racism or police brutality or both, calling the cops racist and defunding the police and all these types of things. And you look at everything that they're doing and the attacks on people on the right and the attacks on this country, it's clear they're pushing a socialist Marxist agenda. Even with the COVID, playing games with COVID, making it harder for small business owners to survive. They know that's Trump's base. They know that is Trump's base. And the longer they can keep things closed down and keep those people from making a living and stuff, the harder that, you know, they're going to make it for Well, in their minds, they think they're going to make it harder for Trump to win. This is only going to inspire them to vote for Trump even more. You understand? This is only going to inspire them to vote for Trump even more. Because you targeted them. You've assaulted them for living that American dream of starting a business and raising a family. You know, and George Carlin echoed you hear a lot of that same sentiment come from the African American community and the Hispanic community now too, sadly. It didn't used to be that way. About, you know, those white men, those slave owners, etc. Well, at the same time they were slave owners, the rulers in Africa, plenty of them, were also slave owners. Around the world, there were slave owners. I'm not saying it was right. I'm saying that's the way the world was then. And you just have to accept that. And we are now in 2020. And if you're constantly living your life looking over your shoulder, trying to find something that you can be upset about, that you can blame other people for, that you can use as an excuse not to do something with your life, then you're never gonna be happy. If you choose to keep looking over your shoulder to find something where you're gonna then have a chip on your shoulder, you're never gonna progress anywhere into anything. You're never gonna move forward and focus on yourself. And it's become a cottage industry for these people on the left and these quote unquote civil rights leaders. That guy, what's that guy, Master J or something, running around with guns and shit? The way that guy talks, can't the people around him understand that guy's got a screw loose? Can't they understand he's like a self-proclaimed leader of something? I'm sure there's a lot of people who keep going to his things and those rallies and stuff because they kind of blow him off and they think they're doing it for some cause instead of doing it for him. So they're kind of like, oh, let him go flap his gums, look like a clown in front of the cameras. That's the only reason. That's the only thing I can think of, because I would surely be like, this guy's a joke, man. He ain't no leader. He's all about him. But people right now, you're out in the street shaking your fist, you're injuring people, you're burning down businesses, you're putting yourself at risk to be hurt or arrested or killed. And guess what? People are getting rich off of what you're doing. Do you understand that? They're getting rich off of what you're doing. The people who run around, who constantly have to find something wrong with society or with something so they can make a living by selling books and going on TV shows, by getting contributions from people, they learn that that's how they can make money. And that's what they do constantly. They could give a rat's ass about you or the supposed cause they support, whatever. They just see a way to jump on the bandwagon and make some money. That's all. Because a lot of them don't have any work experience. They don't have any real life experience. They make their living by flapping their gums or writing their bullshit books. And you're going to have to wake up to that. That a lot of what's going on right now is being driven by people who the only dog they have in the fight is how much money they can make. That's all. The only reason they're there. It's because they're making money off of it. The only reason they're encouraging you It's because they're making money off of it. Just like George Carlin would spew his crap because he was making money off of it. Do you understand? He was making money off of it. And the same people who are driving you on are just like him. They're rich and doing really good. And they're spurring you on. They are spurring you on. And you're the one putting yourself and your future at risk. Your family, you're putting your families, if you're out there in those streets and you got kids and stuff, you're putting their futures at risk. Do you understand? What are they going to do if you go to prison? What are they going to do if you get killed? You need to wake up to this. People are playing you. You don't, number one, you don't have as big of a movement as you think you do. More and more people are waking up to the fact, that they just have a bunch of tweakers, a bunch of idiots in their streets, out to do no good. And they're fed up with it. And you're going to start meeting more and more resistance every place you go. And if the cops won't stop you, citizens are going to start stopping you. And trust me, those cops that you berate and scream in their faces and everything every day, you would much rather have them take you away than the citizens of this country turn loose on you. Not because the citizens of this country are some kind of monsters, but because they're fed up. They are tired of it. They're tired of all the false narratives. They're tired of, the extreme propaganda and the lies. They are tired of the political stuff. Of being, and they're tired of the COVID crap, of being locked down when you see like Pelosi and all them people don't even, and now she was set up. They're tired of the bullshit with that COVID, too, all the false numbers and stuff. All the misinformation or lack of information. And these people telling you, even if Trump wins, carry on, are still going to be rich and making money. And they know Trump is going to win. Come on, if you're in the Democratic Party and you think Joe Biden is going to win, if you think there's nothing wrong with Joe Biden, you are living in some kind of bubble, man. I'm telling you. I am telling you, because it is apparent to everybody that dude has lost, a lot of his brain function. And after he loses the election, remember he said, if you don't vote for him, you ain't black. Well, after he loses the election, I guess then the majority of white people in this country who are not going to vote for him can say, guess what, Joe, you were right. We didn't vote for you and we ain't black. Which brings me to my next thing, which I've touched on before. Why do politicians, especially on the left, pander to minorities, to blacks, Mexicans, screwed up alphabet people, the homosexuals and everything? Constantly. Year after year, decade after decade. You look at all their speeches and everything. Now, if a politician stepped up out there and said, I want to appeal to the white people in this country, or if the reporters asked him questions about, what are you going to do for white people in this country? Instead of asking, what are you going to do for African Americans? Instead of asking, what are you going to do for Mexican Americans? Can you imagine? If somebody asks, what do you see? And it's become so normal to people that that's acceptable and there's nothing wrong with it. And that if anyone was to say anything, ask about, what are you going to do for white people, that would on its own just be so racist. but it's not racist for themselves. So I think that's part of, if you want to get down, and you keep hearing the word systemic problems in this country, that's one of the systemic problems in this country. And they're pushing it harder and harder. That if any white person says anything or objects to anything or raises a question about anything having to do with African Americans or immigration and Mexicans, they're just racist. They're just racist. And you see it in pop culture. The Marxists and everything, and the communists and socialists, all had re-education camps. Re-education camps. Well, they don't have those here, but you know what they do have? Movies, video games, social media, legalized drugs. That's why you can't go to a movie or turn the TV on without getting some kind of social justice warrior message or something demeaning white people or demeaning the founding fathers of this country, demonizing everybody. And you go back to Obama and even before Obama, the demonization of the white people in this country who wanted to hold on to their guns and their Bibles. Well, it's starting to look like that might have been a good idea. Don't it, Mr. Obama? But it's so subtle sometimes the way they do it, and they put it in the movies, they put it in TV, they put it in music, it's on the news. A lot of these, your local news are owned by the same corporations, and I'm not sure if there still is, but there used to be laws where you could only own so many TV and radio stations for this very fact that they are propaganda machines. Television is the greatest brainwashing machine ever invented. One of them, anyway. Now we got everything on the internet and YouTube and Instagram and all that stuff. Facebook, got all that. You got the TV stations and the radio stations. In a lot of cases, they don't even have to push an agenda because the DJs and the TV people are so uneducated themselves. They're just going with the flow. They're going with the flow and reiterating all the same crap because they're just as uneducated as the people they're speaking to. Take a look back. It's re-education camps. And they're in the schools now, too. Putting the transgender, cross-dressing teachers in school, and the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, everything. To also push their agendas. If you're going to wake up and be woke to something in America, you better wake up to all of that. Even if you're part of it right now. And you're believing all this stuff, you better step back and take a look at what's really going on. You're being used for political purposes, and they don't care what happens to you. You can go to prison or get killed, your family can be ruined, all those types of things, and all they want to do is keep pushing their agenda so they can take absolute power. Absolute power over every single thing everybody does in this country and dictate to everybody how they're going to think, if they can believe in God, if they can, and so they can rob them of every dime they make with their wealth redistribution plans and all that kind of stuff. Which some of you might think, hey, that's all right. Take somebody else's wealth. Like that girl in Chicago, after the looting, said, hey, that's reparations. That's so they can eat, even though everything she said was a bunch of horse shit. So they can buy drugs. why they're looting. Ain't so they can eat. They're getting welfare, unemployment, food stamps, everything else. What do you mean so they can eat? Try to tell me you're oppressed in this country. You're 300 pounds and rolling a joint and going through McDonald's. You're oppressed. Take a look around the world. See what real oppression and hardship is. In most cases, people are oppressing themselves because of what they give their attention and time to, and what they waste their money on. So going back over, the argument that, oh, this country was founded by white men, for white people, for white men, and this and that and everything. Look here, Sparky. And the same thing with the slavery thing. Oh, George Washington and the other, they owned slaves. Well, so did the rulers of Africa and other places around the world. So what's your point? What's your point? It was 150 years ago. What's your point? They owned slaves, just like black leaders and kings and stuff did in Africa. So what's your point? Well, they started a country for white people, for white men and stuff and everything. Okay. So did the leaders in Africa, who not for white men, but who were the founders of countries in Africa? And who'd they start those countries for? Who were the founders of countries in Asia? And who'd they start those countries for? Did Chinamen start the Chinese dynasties for other people other than the Chinese people? Did the leaders and kings and stuff in Africa start their countries and their monarchies for people other than Africans? You want to tell me those monarchies in Africa, those kings and stuff and the queens, they didn't have slaves? A lot of y'all, you follow that narrative that Solomon and the Queen of Sheba had a thing. Or was it David? I'm sorry, excuse me, I forget that part of it. But you don't think she had servants or slaves? Being a queen in Africa, you don't think she had slaves? So what's your point when you say, oh, these white men founded this nation? Who founded England, Ireland, Germany, France, Poland, Russia? See, those were all countries started by white people for white people. The Arabs started their nations. The Persians started their nations for their people. But somehow, American white people are evil for it, even though our founding fathers were visionaries. And they didn't just start this country for white people. It's evident by the documents, the founding documents of this country, that all men are created equal. That race, creed, religion, all those things should not matter when it comes to being a citizen of the United States of America. That we are all Americans no matter our backgrounds. That's our common bond. We're all Americans. The founding fathers were scholars of world history, of religion, of you name it, of government, of all kinds of things. And they saw the countless wars between religions and races and nations and things in Europe and other places in the world. And they said, you know what? If we make it to where this nation under law accepts all those things and treats everybody equally, as long as those people don't overstep the bounds and their practices don't harm or do injury to other persons, everybody can get along. Because most people get along until they're driven against each other by people who use politics, religion, race, you name it, whatever they can think of. And it's usually for their own gain, because they're not going to war, their kids aren't going to war, so they drive, like these people are driving you into the streets over all this kind of stuff so they can enrich themselves and take power. And if you look at all the wars in Europe and all those types of things, when the Founding Fathers looked at that, they said, hey, you know what? Let's take all those reasons away for people to kill each other. And we'll make this a land that accepts everybody, and then nobody can run around killing the other people because they're different. They knew it was going to take time to get rid of slavery, but it was always on the table. It was always discussed. You need to stop looking backwards, and you need to take a harder look at and think about what people are telling you to be upset about. And think logically and clearly for yourselves. Because I, for one, I don't have white guilt no more and shame that this country was founded by white men. Because you look around the world, guess what? Every country was founded by the race that was there. Well, Native Americans, yes, they were. The Native Americans were here. But they were not a unified country, and they fought with each other and killed each other too. But look around the world. Every nation was founded by people who were there, and it was founded for their day. And found their nation for people who were 1,000 miles away somewhere. They founded it for their people who were there. And predominantly in this nation, when it was founded, the predominant race was white people. But these white people decided, you know what? We're looking to the future. We can see the mistakes humanity has made in Europe and other places. We're looking to the future for a land where everybody can live in harmony, in the pursuit of happiness. Have there been some serious bumps along the way? Yes. But if you go back and you look at a lot of those, you need to look at the party on the left there. All right, wish you all the best out there. Be safe on the road. And we'll catch you on the next one. God bless.